celebrity in the audience. Can I get a spot, please? That's right. It's one of the boys from the local Blade Runner unit. One of the LPD's finest, Ray McCoy. Let's give a big hand for Rep Detect McCoy. He's protecting us.
Oh, come on, guys! I don't want to be noticed on my hour's lunch. Guys, the guys at the station think I'm wasting replicants. Come on, don't be like this.
Detective.
Doesn't quite
dick
work
move.
that way.
What if I pretended to be a replicant?
That's just an excuse for your lousy act, Gordo.
Wait.
Zora, she was a rep. And her pictures
The snake dancer is who Deckard wasted in the movie, by the way.
Too bad she'll never read it.
So it is very
Are
recent.
you sure someone's a rep, detective?
There's a test.
Test? What replicant's gonna sit still for a test?
If I'm trying to question someone and he runs, that's a pretty good sign.
Could be a pretty good sign that you need to bathe more often.
Damn.
Boom, 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 tsh. So now he's off running. So now let's get him. If he's running away, then surely that means he's one of them, right?
He went down too easy. Just one shot. I got the cold cut boys down here, and they performed the bone marrow on him.
What?
And yeah, he was human.
Oh my! What?
Yeah. Hey, you fucking go, lads.
Does that mean you have to start all over again?
That was a game over, yeah. That's how unforgiving this game is. If you get it wrong, you fucking go right back to where you were.
Jesus. Well, like,
Yeah.
when I say you got the game over, it doesn't restart at the start. You know, everyone's a new thing.
It's from where you left the last save. Yeah.
Okay.
Now again, there's auto saves and all that stuff in between anyway. But yeah, I thought I kept that in just to demonstrate to you. Yeah, game's fucking hardcore. Like you need to nail the landing if you want to get this right.
Choice contraband, scarce and mucho expensive. Selling them was a Class A felony.
So even then, so what's happened with Gordo there is that he's basically proven the point that this whole system of us just shall we say going with a gut to say if they're replicant or not. And again, he kind of has a point.
Yeah.
Because this whole argument of like, if the police have justifiable cause to shoot you, what's on them to what's stopping them from just bullshitting and lying? You know what I mean? Like this is where the power that they have is actually quite corruptive in a sense. Because what's stopping like any guy from signing up to being a Blade Runner and just shooting people at will and saying, "Oh, no, I found proof of them being a replicant," and he can manipulate that evidence as much as they want.
Took my pictures.
So yeah, that's like it is a bit grim when you think of it that way, but that's also how they spun it in a sense.
Who the hell are you?
Is for it to be
McCoy,
that
LPD.
kind of unpleasant.
LPD, huh?
Now obviously McCoy on the
Maybe
opposite
you guys
side was saying,
returned
well, no, we can't just do that. Like we do actually need to
How
have
do you know
some
we
genuine
got it?
evidence, and
One of your own.
you know, I'd be interviewed and I'd be an investigator
Bad
for
haircut,
this. You know,
stupid coat.
it's also
The other guy.
but it's also
What
true
other
that he
guy?
gets a commission
Nobody does.
for every retirement he does.
What about him?
So again, it's that kind of like,
Nothing.
well,
I
you
just
just have to
thought
trust them
you were gonna
essentially to
arrest
do their
me,
jobs
that's all.
properly and not be
I
corrupt.
don't care about your little run-in with the manager, okay? I'm looking for a couple of.
As is often the case with
Yeah,
everything in
that'll
Blade
be your
Runner,
friend.
there's an ethical
Maybe the
quandary
clerk can
with
tell
what
me
they
who was
do.
renting that room back there.
Yeah.
Why were you hassling him? You let these creeps in my room. I'm a very private person. What do they got against you? Nothing, friend. I ain't done nothing.
But
We're all
yes, the thing with
innocent.
Gordo there was like
Damn
he
straight.
was basically he is
I
human
don't like
in this
people asking questions
playthrough.
either.
He's
Just
basically
help
proven
me
the
out
point
here
that
a
the
little
system
more.
is
I've
wrong.
seen a big rousty
If I
guy
let
around
him
here,
speak,
or a guy with a
he
beard
would
and dark
explain that
eyes.
he's not a replicant. That he's just
Rasta.
proven that
What's that?
like, you know,
He's got dreadlocks. Talks with an accent.
basically being like, you know, rash and stuff like that
No, I ain't seen no one like that.
shows that the system is flawed.
Look,
So in a weird
my
way,
mother's
if we
waiting for
don't shoot him, we're proving
stick
that like, you
around.
know, he's
Maybe the
actually,
manager
you
will
know,
come
we're proving that we actually do have some level of intelligence in a roundabout way.
Can we arrest him?
Hmm?
I just kind of want to arrest him, throw him in jail just for being a dick. Yeah, mate, you're right, but you're a dick. You wasted my time there.
Again, here's the thing, right? There's actually no necessary. It isn't necessarily like a crime to pretend to be a replicant in a weird way. Like you could, like, you could dick about with the police if you wanted to, but realistically, that could end up getting you killed. Like in the same way with
I
like,
didn't know who was
if
working
you're
this side of the
if you're in
pool, but
America and you're
whoever it
dealing with a
was, they'd
police
been
officer,
pretty
you're not going to
thorough
pretend
going
to
through
wave a
the
gun
joint.
around
I
because
doubted
those
if there
fucking
was
idiots will
anything I
just
could
shoot you
find
on
that
sight.
hadn't already been
You
snagged
know what I
in the
mean? Like they're
bag.
not like, unfortunately, American police do not have the emotional intelligence to make a critical decision in a couple of seconds. They're not trained well enough to do that. Like like you can like I don't know how many years it is for Irish police or European police to have out to get their certificates. In America, it's substantially shorter. Like I could probably do a correspondence course on fucking WebEx and then probably become a sheriff. You know what I mean? Like that's how low the bar is.
Nothing.
And again, it's because like nobody wanted to be a police officer in America, so they made the bar that low. So now every fat idiot with a fucking gun can now be a police officer. So, it's quite like grim in a sense where like if like there's been cases where people have had Nerf guns and then been shot by the police or water guns.
Holden's
You know what I mean?
badge.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's some idiot in Florida who's
I
accidentally
recognized the
opened
logo
fire
on
on a
the
suspect
envelope.
for
It was
having
definitely
like
Runciter's
smoking
animal
finger
sales,
guns.
but I didn't expect to find hundreds
You
of
know?
chin units. I
That'd
didn't
be
know
a
what
bit.
for, but I bet the
Wait.
farm it wasn't on Runciter's books.
You
God.
know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like we're not dealing with like this isn't a sensible situation system here. You know. This is also interesting as well. This is a picture of this. I'm just drawing attention to this moon bus thing here. This was downloaded from the mainframe earlier on, and we haven't actually checked on it, but we will later on.
Hello, it's
So just
J.
keep it in mind for
Sebastian.
now.
Someone had tried. The earring was shaped like an insect. I didn't know much about jewelry, but it looked like junk to me.
Like
the
sometimes
cheap
it does
crap
like
sold at
genuinely
the
help
stands and
to
shops
check
at
your
Illinois Grove.
your database here whenever you do sync up, because there will be stuff that you will have missed at some point and might just fill in the blanks for whatever kind of case you're doing. Like it's a nice idea in a way. Like it's a nice little centralized thing for like every Blade Runner checks in and like is investigating their area of the city. So now that we've so something that we find might actually be Gaff's case, let's say, or Decker's case or something like that.
The wrapper was from a vendor I knew.
Again, the Blade Runners
That's
are a
Dunkin'
very
Donuts in the
select
fourth
group.
sector.
There's not
That
many.
wasn't saying
There's
a
not
whole
very
lot,
little
but with an
of many
arcade
of
next
them.
door and a
Like I
dozen
think it is
nightclubs
just
down
like
the
there's
street.
not even
Mia and Murray's
like
stand
10
saw
of them
more
even. I think
action
it's
in
less
a
than
night
that.
than my spinster
So
aunt saw all
yeah,
last
highly
season.
specialized.
The car looked
Highly
a
sought
lot
after, I
like the one I'd been
suppose,
tracking.
from the replicants
driver had been
because
smart enough to
it's a
pull the
game of
license
cat and
plate,
mouse
but
between
the
them.
vehicle identification number was still there. If I ran it through the mainframe back at the station, I could ID the owner.
So yeah, the reason I kept that bit in, by the way, because I found two extra pieces of evidence that I missed the first time around. So there was what looked like a scale of some kind, like a snake scale, in the bathroom of the crime scene where Holden's badge was found, and then there was a food wrapper in the car as well. The car, by the way, is the same one as the as what was parked up outside Runciter's. So we've not necessarily proven that that's the case, but it's very, very likely it's his. It's the same car. So that's why I kept this bit in, even though it was a bit repetitive, just so you can have that extra context. And as we've learned from the rest of the playthrough, every fucking clue counts, apparently. So there you go.
Everything.
Yes.
The mainframe confirmed what I'd already guessed. The car from Chinatown was the same vehicle that had smacked the hydrant at Runciter's. The car was registered to a woman named Dektora. She'd bought it from a used car lot in the 4th sector. I ran the name through records and came up empty. The used car lot checked out clean too, but maybe the owner could tell me something.
Okay, so we have Dektora, who said it's her car using the crime scene. That sounds like a lead we could follow up on.
Moon bus.
Now, here's a fun little bit. So you remember one of the other subplots to this has been the moon bus crash, where the replicants hijacked it and crash landed down the kibble.
Yeah.
There's a figure in the background there.
That can't be me. Give me a hard copy of that.
Aha! Yeah! Fucking plot twist. Remember what they were saying at the start, when we were knocked out, that you know, they were kind of implying that we were a replicant this whole time.
Strange. Give me a hard copy of that.
This right here is why I have my strategy for that Rick and Morty game. Literally, if I'm I'm not sure what's monster. What's the word?
Parasite.
If I'm a parasite, I personally I don't care. I just like my goal is to survive regardless. So I always leave it empty and just act accordingly.
Yeah, but that's the fun part.
We have not done that.
Yeah, it's been a long ass time. Like I'm thinking, like during, I think we did it like when there was a quiet bit in the pandemic. I think we had a gathering and we played it then. But that's been a while, very long time.
Like I remember trying to shoot each other from across the room. Wasn't quite as fun as getting up close.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, the social distancing kind of made snipers of us all. But yeah, no, the little dialogue bit was interesting there in terms of like it's like they were almost trying to implant the little seeds that we are one of them instead of a Blade Runner. And of course that little bit of evidence kind of this little bit of evidence here kind of suggests that as well, so
now, as someone who hasn't watched the film or like watched it years ago,
yeah,
I'm trying to remember, was it this film or was it Terminator that had animals go apeshit around? Like, will an animal recognize a replicant?
Ground floor.
I think it was I'm trying to remember now, actually. I think it's both, actually, because I think there is a scene there where this dog gone mental at Schwarzenegger for walking down.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think that's the case. Anyway, it wouldn't have been in Blade Runner because, as we mentioned in the game, like the real animals are kind of like at a premium. So most of the actual pets you see are actually synthetic in the Blade Runner movie. So yeah, that would probably be Terminator you're thinking of then.
All right.
I could be wrong with that now. Maybe there was a scene and some fancy Dan had a fucking had a pet dog or something like that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And like I said, we've already established that the replicants tend to just like kill anything alive anyway, just out of spite, because again, the whole idea that they're programmed to just do whatever they want, so therefore they can kill without remorse and kill without any sort of level of like restraint, which is which is the kind of design for that's made them dangerous, You thought you would have figured that somebody would have thought about that before they, started mass producing them, but apparently not. So, we have the moon. So, it's not quite well explained in a sense. But obviously, like, us being at this moon bus crash doesn't make sense. Like, we probably would have remembered that. But again, this is our memory being challenged here to a certain degree.
That guy sure gets around.
Would it be possible that there's two of us going around like us and a replicant of us at the same time?
Yeah, technically possible. I mean, they could have absolutely had, like, say, they could very well have copied our likeness. Now this isn't like that'd be more like a body snatcher situation, or something like The Thing, for instance. Like that wouldn't be the.
I remember early.
Oh yeah, by the way, you just seen the table rotate there. By the way, so there's your clue that the tables can move.
His favorite animal propagation lab. Yeah, he was a real piece of work.
But yeah, so I think like the way they would have to work it would be that, like, say if they wanted to impersonate or they wanted to infiltrate the police department with a Blade Runner, the way they would do it would be to obviously like kill off the original McCoy, but then basically manufacture a replicant to have not only his face but his likeness and his personality, which is all apparently very doable if you have good enough scientists and good enough researchers. You can just do a decent facsimile of somebody. What would complicate matters if you had two McCoys on the go. So it'd be a case of like maybe he escaped his whatever fucking like assassination happened and they just went ahead with the replication. So what would probably be more effective would be to try and trick them into thinking they are replicants to a certain degree, or at least make them sympathetic to the cause. So that one is basically when the original movie came out, there were two kind of main theories, because the ending is a little bit, I wouldn't say vague is the wrong word to use, but it's a little bit open. It's an open ending, shall we say, because Deckard basically leaves town with Rachel, who is the prototype Generation 7 replicant, like passes all the void contest perfectly, comes across as human as possible, biologically as human as possible, all this sort of stuff. So essentially it was a ambiguous note of whether like Deckard got to the point where he realized he was a replicant and basically said, right, cover's blown, let's get out into the wilderness together and survive. The other ending, and what has now been kind of proven to be the case with the sequel movie 2049, is that Deckard just basically became sympathetic to the cause. Like, he actually did see that this Rachel person is about as close to a human as these replicants can be, and that's where they're going to. Like, this whole side of them being psychotic killers was essentially a phase that they go through. It got ironed out in the design. So when you get to like 2049 and like, I'm not gonna spoil too much because you guys might watch the movie or whatever, but basically you can see where the replicants have gone since Deckard and Rachel disappeared. So I won't say too much, but there will be a 9th generation replicant in those movies, and at that point you don't know who's human and who's fake. There's no such thing anymore. They're all people at that point. But it's the same thing where like they still have a function and they still have a shelf life. That's the only difference you can say between them, So that's the only kind of thing you have there. And then of course there's also this aspect of like, you have now replicants who are that good at facsimile that they think they're human, with implanted memories, origins, all this sort of stuff. And funny enough, that's something that has been taken from stuff like Total Recall and other works as well. And that was very much a Total Recall thing that has been kind of like, again, one has inspired the other now at this stage. So in this game here, it's kind of playing on that kind of like that interpretation of the ending. So they're kind of tying with what happens if what if McCoy was a replicant? How would we kind of play with? How would we kind of work that out? So again, this depending on which way the game interprets your play, you get basically like set onto the one or two paths. And one path leads you to one thing with McCoy, and then one thing leads to the other. But that's basically it. The game's still played the same way in a sense. Like, McCoy himself doesn't particularly change.
Too bad she'll never read it.
And it's basically how you interpret this little curveball of the plot. Was McCoy actually there at the moon bus? I mean, you as the player don't know. You don't know him since the start of the game.
Could the photo be a fake?
Well, that's the other bit. The piece of evidence there that actually tells you that is the moon bus reflection, because we're not in the reflection of the moon bus. So that's the giveaway there, that this is not on the level.
If you gotta shoot, that's cool.